Great Demon King. Chapter 45. Making a move when he should make one. After emerging from the cemetery of death, Han Shuo retraced his steps along the original path. However, halfway back, the sky had completely brightened, signaling the approach of dawn. When he returned to the original camping grounds, according to his memory, he discovered that the necromancy students had long since moved on. Just as Han Shuo was about to curse loudly, a sudden realization struck him. He took in the appearance of his surroundings and noticed that the ashes around the bonfire didn't resemble those from the previous night. Instead, they appeared much older, as if they had been there for several days. Han Shuo's tent area had been filled with many resources before, but now, nothing remained. Only a few rocks were piled up in a triangular formation where the camp had once stood. Intrigued, Han Shuo quickly approached the tent area. He drew his dagger and carefully sifted through the center of the stone pile, retrieving a piece of yellow paper after a moment. His heart pounded as he read the message. Brian, on the second day of your departure, we found traces of the two man-eating monsters nearby. We were worried that they would seek revenge and decided not to wait for you. When you see this note, return to the academy along the original way. Perhaps we will meet halfway. Hope you are safe and sound, Fanny. Fanny had left the note. Han Shuo wapped his head after reading it and silently exclaimed. He realized that much more time had unknowingly passed while he was practicing magic. Not merely a day. It seemed the two man-eating monsters had appeared and caused Fanny and the others to panic. Additionally, Fanny was already deep in the southern territory of the Dark Forest, and without Clark's protection, they had no choice but to resign themselves to returning along their original path. Currently, Han Shuo's slave status still hadn't been resolved, and the woman he desired was still within the Babylon Academy of School and Magic, along with some tomes of necromancy magic he still wanted to learn. He would be unable to leave the academy in the near future. With the 6 magical sticks, Han Shuo could come and go from the cemetery of death at his leisure. He could absolutely use the transportation matrix to make the cemetery his personal territory after he returned to the academy. The entire southern portion of the Dark Forest would become his training fields in the future. Whether it was magical yuan or magic spell training, half the amount would lead to double the effectiveness in a place like this. Musing for a while, Han Shuo followed the instructions left on Fanny's note and took the original road, swiftly moving towards the outskirts of the Dark Forest. Despite traveling without rest for a day, Han Shuo didn't feel tired at all. Moving through the winding and bumpy paths of the Dark Forest, Han Shuo's speed was as fast as lightning, resembling a magical creature hunting down its prey. As dusk approached, he neared an area of randomly scattered rocks and shrubs. This was an area where they had camped before. The sounds of metallic clashes reached him from afar. Han Shuo was startled, thinking, could it be that Fanny and everyone else are under attack by the man-eating monsters? Concern gnawed at him. Determined to ensure their safety, his speed picked up, and he abruptly flew towards the area of rocks and shrubs. Along the way, many forest trolls with glistening green skin, towering bodies, grimacing faces, and wielding knives or studded clubs repeatedly attacked Han Shuo. He easily evaded all of them, his movements swift and calculated. Forest trolls were a race within the Dark Forest that were mortal enemies with the elves. The elves treated them as marauders of the forest and continuously attacked them. Within the Dark Forest, the forest trolls were even more frightening robbers than the man-eating monsters. Not only did they adhere to a strict code of conduct, but they also divided themselves according to methods employed by humans into warriors, hunters, and even priests that could use some simple magics. It was said that the forest trolls evolved from plants and trees. They held high intelligence similar to humans and enjoyed some unique advantages within the Dark Forest. They leveraged these advantages to wantonly plunder the resources of other races, including the cargo of traveling merchants. They were infamous bandits and robbers, akin to the man-eating monsters. Han Shuo listened closely to the sounds of fighting and quickly darted in the direction they came from. Along the way, some of the forest troll hunters threw out long spears, which flew towards Han Shuo's spine with a whooshing sound. Han Shuo's 5 senses were exceedingly sensitive as he ran. His ears twitched and he changed the direction of his body a few times, easily evading the long spears that had been thrown. Several forest troll warriors holding large sharp axes yelled loudly as they rushed towards Han Shuo. But before they had reached him, Han Shuo had already agilely dashed past them and continued towards the center of the action. After about 10 seconds of extremely fast sprinting, Han Shuo had finally made it to the thick of combat. He saw about 10 people wielding longswords, defending themselves against the forest troll attacks. Their attire clearly signified them as part of a mercenary band. They all looked like they had suffered some sort of injury. Around 10 forest trolls surrounded them. Troll warriors handled the close combat up front, while about 10 troll hunters continuously threw out long spears. The final 5 troll priests cast simple healing magics and fire of the soul to enhance body durability, healing the warriors' and hunters' injuries while increasing their vitality. Judging from the scene, the fight had been ongoing for a while. The battle strength of the band of roughly 10 humans was extraordinary, but the forest trolls held the advantage in numbers. They had missile fighters in the form of troll hunters and healing-type troll priests. The combination of these 3 elements matched up against a mercenary band of only warriors. Add to that the forest troll's superior strength. It was obvious they held the absolute advantage. A short, stocky fatty with a face full of blubber was behind the mercenaries. His yellow bean-like little eyes moved swiftly as he cursed loudly. He seemed to be searching for a way out. So it wasn't Fanny and them. Looks like this has nothing to do with me, Han Shuo thought, immediately deciding not to get involved. He had no desire to join the fray and help, intent on simply bypassing these people and continuing on his path to exit the dark forest. However, even though Han Shuo had no intention of lending a helping hand, these forest trolls didn't seem to want to let him go. A couple of particularly strong and fierce troll warriors, out in the front, had already raised their large battle axes and were rushing towards Han Shuo. A few sharp spears in flight also accompanied them. "Sorry, I'm just passing by and will leave immediately. Continue robbing them. It's nothing to do with me." Han Shuo didn't want new complications to arise, so when he saw the troll warriors rushing towards him, he yelled loudly and tried to leave, aiming to avoid them. Humans are the most devious and evil of all races. Kill him. Standing beside the troll priests on the outside, the forest troll leader of this operation suddenly screamed harshly in the common language of humans. The troll warriors had paused briefly upon hearing Han Shuo's words, but lost their hesitation when hearing their leader's command, and came rushing over with axes upraised. Damn that. They were looking for death. Han Shuo was also a bit frustrated. He had just evaded the long spears when the tall, bulky troll warriors rushed over with their battle axes. They were obviously planning on taking care of him along with the others. Wrapping his hand around a long spear beside him, Han Shuo pulled upwards and grasped the spear firmly. He didn't wait for the forest troll warriors to get closer before he jumped upwards. The spear in his hand was so fast that it was like lightning piercing through the air. The spear first pierced through the chest of a troll warrior, and also strung up the warrior that was close behind it. The 2 troll warriors only had time to emit 2 ghastly screams before they died instantly when the spear impaled them. Han Shuo randomly grabbed one of the battle axes that one of them had wielded and yelled loudly, "Can't blame me if you come looking for your own deaths." After the matter with the man-eating monsters last time, Han Shuo was no longer timid, nor did he waste time hesitating when it came to killing someone. He also somehow felt vaguely excited. Han Shuo knew that mercy or pleas would be absolutely useless with these bandits and robbers. Only cold and cruel methods would be able to shock and awe them. The more timid and cowardly you were, the more they would act without reservation. Therefore, Han Shuo had acted extremely cruelly just now, directly using violent killings to face them. Indeed, after Han Shuo had displayed his brutal methods, panicked expressions appeared on the glistening green skin of the other 4 forest trolls that had followed their brethren's charge. They retreated several steps backward in cowardice. Even the leader of the forest trolls looked at him with some horror, and an apprehensive expression appeared on his face. "Brave warrior, please rescue me." At this moment, the short fatty that the mercenaries had shoved to the back for protection suddenly cried out with excitement. He looked at Han Shuo with a fervorous expression, as if Han Shuo was his savior. "No interest?" Han Shuo replied decisively. He picked up the battle axe with a cold snort and prepared to leave. The short fatty immediately lost his calm and cried out wildly upon seeing that Han Shuo was about to leave. "Brave warrior, I am willing to pay you a rich reward if you save me. I promise that you'll be satisfied." Han Shuo had already taken a few steps forward when he heard those words. He suddenly stopped and turned with a faint smile. Looking at the fatty, he said, "Noble sir, how large of a reward are you willing to give?" The fatty was momentarily stunned, then hesitated. He grit his teeth and stamped his foot, yelling loudly, 50 gold. "Sorry, please find someone else." Han Shuo thought that if it had been before, he probably would have been tempted by the 50 gold. Now that he'd entered the dark forest and discovered that his skills were absolutely enough for him to catch windblade wolves by himself, He no longer felt that 50 gold was enough for him to take the risk. Fatty grew anxious, seeing that Han Shuo was about to leave. He yelled out again, 70 at most. Han Shuo continued walking forward without even looking back. 80, 100, 120, 150, 200, 200. The moving figure abruptly stopped, and Han Shuo suddenly looked back and rushed speedily back. He said, "All right, 200 it is then. I'll eat up the loss and count it as making a friend. Oh my word, 200 golds. You're robbing me just like they are. 200 gold is enough for more than 10 slaves. Damn it, get me out of here." The fatty hollered with a look of pain on his face, his desperation evident as he begged Han Shuo to take him.